my name is Christina Marchington. I'm the Educational Programs Assistant here at the Gregg Museum of Art and Design, and this morning I'm chatting with Jordan Cao. So Jordan, what is your title and some of your main responsibilities at the Gregg?
I'm the Assistant Registrar here, and as part of the registration department, it is my job to help care for our permanent collection. In addition to that, I also supervise any interns that work with our department.
What is your educational background? Did you always want to work in a museum collection?
Sometime around high school, I decided I really wanted to do something in museums, and specifically something involving touching the objects. I initially looked at object conservation as a career choice, but ended up falling in love with collections. So my bachelor's degree is in historic preservation, and it was sort of a blend of architecture and archaeology, material culture, museum studies, kind of lots of things involved in the history field. And then my master's degree is in museum studies with a collections management focus.
I considered conservation for a moment, but I'm sure like you also found out that it required science, and that was not my strongest subject in school.
I got as far as getting into the graduate program, and then I thought, oh, hold on. I don't know that I want to do this forever.
What are some of your favorite aspects of working with a museum collection?
I especially love working with Gregg's collection because we have so many different kinds of objects. No 2 days are the same as far as what tasks we're working on, but also we have such a wide variety of materials to work with. Different cultures, different countries, different types of things, from textiles to photographs to pottery. There's no chance of getting bored here.
Do you have a favorite object or type of object in the collection?
It changes by the day, which I love. I have particular experience with textiles, so I think I'll always have a soft spot for them. I really enjoy our photography collection. It is huge, just absolutely massive. And I think the one that brings me the most joy is the Mengelsdorf corn collection. He was a corn scientist and collected just anything and everything corn-shaped, corn-related, from Christmas tree light bulbs to there's a straight razor, an 18th century ivory carved ear of corn from Japan. It's just the most off-the-wall collection, and you can't be sad when you're looking at it. It's just so funny.
I love that. Some of my past research and for my master's degree was about collecting, less about, the individual objects, which of course is really fun, but also receiving an entire collection and trying to wrap your head around why someone might collect corn, but also then being excited that someone did and that this all exists in one place, which is now the Gregg.
Yeah, and it's so fun to kind of pick into those collections and sort of look at why someone would collect those things and what it meant to them. And I never would have thought to collect that many corn-shaped casserole dishes, but it meant something to Dr. Mengelsdorf, and it adds this whole extra dimension to the object now. It's not just a casserole dish. It's his casserole dish, and it meant something to him.
And it was one of many.
One of many.
Who would have thunk it?
Right?
What are some things that the registrar and the assistant registrar do that the public might not know about?
Well, there's a whole world underneath the gallery floors here. We have more than 35,000 objects in our collection. So it's a lot of work making sure that everything is properly cared for in a way that will help it last forever. You'll see our work upstairs with exhibitions. There's a lot of loan paperwork and things like that, and interfacing with the collectors or other museums or art shippers and things like that. But downstairs, there's still a surprising amount of activity. Objects need to be prepared for exhibition, or there are materials coming in quarterly with our collections committee meetings, and we need to make sure that all the legal paperwork is handled for those, that we find the appropriate housing within our storage space, that they have all the correct materials that we're using. There's research and documentation and photography. It's kind of a never-ending process, but it all needs to go on in order to keep the collection safe.
Right.
That's what we're here for.
And that's how the museum exists.
Exactly.
So I have a question. When you do acquire something new, that is called accessioning an object, correct?
Yes.
So what is kind of the short version of that kind of process?
Sure. A donor will offer us an object. We usually get all of our objects via gifts. We're very lucky to have a generous community around us. They'll offer us an item. It will go to our collections committee, and they'll look at the object in terms of its condition, its history. Is it something that the Gregg needs to collect? Is there perhaps a museum that might be a better home for it? Is it something we can care for? Is it something that would benefit our educational programs and our exhibitions? And if so, then we follow through with a vote with the collections committee, and then there's the paperwork for them to sign over the object to us, and then it's time to start documenting. We need all of the information we can find. How big is it? What is it made of? Where did it come from? How old is it? Who made it? If we can find that out. We need to assign it its own identification number. It needs to be labeled with that number. It needs to be housed. We need to get everything in our database. Lots of I's to dot and T's to cross, but it becomes part of our little pack here.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that whole process of getting as much information as possible is extremely important. I studied art history, so I relied heavily on documentation and what museums could provide. Sometimes, of course, that information isn't available, and that's where the search starts, which is the fun part of the fun. Makes me feel kind of like an art sleuth in a way, except often I just hit walls. But as somebody who researches objects, I appreciate all of that work.
A full database is a useful database.
Yes. So what are some of your current or upcoming projects?
Our big project right now is a full collections inventory. We reopened in this building on Hillsborough Street in 2017 and then moved our whole collection here the following year. And when you're moving 35,000 objects, there's plenty of room for mistakes. So one of the big projects immediately following that is we have started a full collections inventory now that we're unpacked.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going through and making sure everything is where we thought it was, and so far so good. But we're also finding information that needs to be filled in for later. Maybe something doesn't have its dimensions recorded, maybe it needs new photography,
Mm-hmm.
and making notes of those projects so that we'll have a clear idea of what we can do in the future as far as taking better care of our collection.
I can't even imagine moving 35,000 objects or how one begins to do that. And I know that's not your first time moving objects from one place to another.
This is my third collections move. Wow. I can't understand why I keep doing this to myself. But I've survived all three, and all the objects have too, so I'm going to consider that a victory.
That's a huge victory.
I'm very much hoping there isn't a fourth in my future.
I'll keep my fingers crossed for
We
you.
have this beautiful building. I can't imagine why we would leave. I really hope we don't.
Right. Well, and the collections downstairs is pretty incredible.
Yes. Having this beautiful compact storage system has made a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
We're able to fit so much of our material in such a small footprint. It's a complete game changer for how we're storing our materials.
Yeah. It is pretty incredible because the way the systems in the back move, it's like they open up to create their own hallways, and that really just saves space. It's pretty amazing.
It's incredible. It really
Mm-hmm.
is. We could fit about twice as many objects in that same footprint as we could if we had standard aisles.
Yeah. What is kind of special about this system or this room that protects those objects?
Well, first of all of these materials, we try to make sure they're archivally appropriate. So they're acid-free. They're not going to degrade the objects in any way. These are all powder-coated metal. They're not going to corrode in the same way exposed metal would.
Mm-hmm.
So the storage furniture is designed with keeping the collection safe in mind. All the packing materials we use, all of the mounts that we make are also made very carefully, thinking about what the object is made of, where its points of weakness are, to make sure that everything is properly supported, nothing is being exposed to anything dangerous for that particular material. And in addition, we have a very robust climate system in here. We keep very close control throughout the building of what our temperature and humidity are. We have an integrated pest management system to monitor and prevent pest issues because little critters can decimate a collection very quickly.
Yes.
They can also tell us about our climate,
Mm-hmm.
so they're very useful to know what's creeping around. So
Awesome.
it's sort of an all points kind of survey at all times.
Yes. Can never truly relax.
Never.
So what are some ways that NC State students or faculty or their classes can use and access the Gregg's collection?
Well, the easiest way, of course, is to come to our exhibitions, but we're also really lucky that we're able to facilitate classes here and host researchers. Before COVID, we were able to have folks come actually down into our classroom space here and view objects in person. Now we're able to do virtual classes, which I'm hoping we'll keep doing, where we're able to give sort of an immersive experience with objects in our collection that can line up with whatever curriculum they're studying.
Mm-hmm.
Researchers can come and visit specific objects related to their area of expertise. Maybe you're working on a class project, maybe you're working on a dissertation. It doesn't necessarily matter the scale of the research. It's all valid. We're all here to serve it.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, with 35,000 objects, we probably have something that'll supplement your research.
Probably.
And we're always excited to have researchers come here. I think that that's something folks don't think they're allowed to ask for, but that's why we're here. We're here to serve the NC State community. We've had researchers from other universities, from other countries, but we're here for the Wolfpack, and we're happy to help in any way we can.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a really cool experience to do research like that with the object in front of you or the primary resources, from my experience. So it's definitely, if it's required for a class, and like you said, at any research level, I think it's worth the experience itself. I mean, learning how to do research in that way is really awesome and really important. Even if somebody doesn't pursue a career in history or collections like you do, it's still a really cool thing to try out at least once.
It really adds an extra dimension to whatever you happen to be researching, to be able to see those pieces in person and to get that extra level to your research.
Yeah. In my master's program at Mizzou, we had a museum, and we also had a library with some really amazing books. And so at one point I got to hold a 15th century Italian book of hours, and that was really cool.
That is also the bonus. Certainly it's a research tool, but it's also just really fun to get to see the stuff behind the scenes. That can't be discounted.
Yeah. So earlier you mentioned you really like this job for many reasons, but also because you get to interact with and touch the objects. What do you mean by that?
I think that working in collections is fantastic. They getting to touch the objects. There's that element of, they told me I'm not supposed to and now I get to. So that's definitely fun. But I think that these physical objects are such a valuable teaching tool. You can read about something in a history book, you can learn about it all day long, but once you see that object, it becomes real. You learn about Abraham Lincoln, stovepipe hat, gingerbread beard, tall guy, president, Gettysburg Address, Ford's Theater,
Right.
got it. You can ace your history test, it's great. But then you go to the museum and you see that. You go to Ford's Theater, you see where he sat, and you're like, this is real.
Yeah.
He was an actual person. Here is that evidence that this actually happened. It's not just something on a page of a book. And suddenly those lessons become so much more. They really stick. They become an experiential thing as opposed to something somebody told you once. And I feel like you can experience that with any kind of object. It doesn't have to be, something as big as Abraham Lincoln's hat. It can be a smaller piece of something from another time or another culture. But those things make the lessons real.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be a clear learning experience like that. These pieces can just evoke emotion in you. They can, in some way, change your day from what it was.
Right.
And I think that is incredibly valuable. And so to have this incredible collection of art and design and history and all of these pieces at our disposal, we can do so much for the people around us. And it's this amazing experience. They can come in, they can completely detach from their day. They can spend 10 minutes, an hour, however long they want in a gallery and see things from all over the world, or just have some quiet time. But I think that these objects really facilitate so many different experiences for so many different people. It's just kind of an amazing opportunity to be part of that.
Yeah, I agree. It's a pretty cool job.
Yeah, it definitely is. Not many people get to figure out exactly the right career for them, and even fewer get to do it, so I'm very, very lucky.
Yes. Well, and that's why I wanted to chat with you today, because it is such a awesome, we're a little biased, but such an awesome job. And, there are many ways to get to this point, but it's also one that the public doesn't necessarily think about all the time or understand fully. So that's why I thought it was pretty important to chat with you and to kind of get a better understanding of what goes on at the Gregg, especially in collections, your role, and how the objects live.
It's a very, very behind-the-scenes job.
Yeah.
If we do our job correctly, you never know we were here.
That's
if
fun.
we're taking care of everything and all of the exhibitions are going on properly and the collection is growing carefully and wisely, and you never really see us doing our jobs. So it's kind of sneaky.
Yeah.
I can't picture myself doing anything else.
Yeah. So if someone wanted to pursue this career path, what's one piece of advice that you would give them?
Intern at the Gregg.
Ooh.
Yeah, volunteer, intern, try different things at museums. I would say that many museums are looking for help at all times. Anytime we can find interested people that want to participate, they want to be part of this process, it's a very welcoming field. I love that about this, and there's a lot of emphasis on sharing information and professional growth. But if there's an opportunity for you and your community to volunteer at a museum, to pursue an internship, go for it. It's the best way to find out if this is a good fit for you. It might turn out it's not, and now you know. But we have yet to have any interns that weren't at least enamored for the length of a semester.
That's awesome.
And it's something that it's really fun to be a part of, to show them how this works and have them go, I had no idea this was a real job. Like, I know, come do it. It's great.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. My first experience in museum education was at an internship, and before that I thought that I wanted to pursue more of a curatorial path, and I realized my role in education, I'm not kind of sequestered to one time period, which is fun, but even that changed for me throughout school with my interests. And so with my job, I get to learn about everyone else's job, which is super fun. I get to relay that information, and I also can kind of read about whatever I feel like, and then make something of it. So,
and that's one of the things I love about collections work, is I'm not stuck to one type of material or one period. I don't have to only do 16th century art or something like that. It's about learning how the different materials interact together.
Yeah.
So I've worked at house museums, I've worked with the United States Senate Curator, I've worked at a working plantation, there were goats. I've worked at a maritime history museum. I've been sort of all over the place and been able to translate these skills to different kinds of environments. And now with this University Art and Design Museum, I'm fortunate to get to kind of add all of those things together, sans goats, to kind of do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And I'm not restricted to one area of expertise or something. I can learn and grow and develop skills in different types of media, but it allows me to explore kind of everything.
Right.
And it's impossible to get bored.
Yeah.
Every day is different, every object is different, and it's just a constant adventure. That can also be the worst part of the job. You can plan your day, and it's probably not going to go the way you thought it was. But it keeps you on your toes. I'm never going to be bored sitting in a cubicle.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today.
It was a great time. Yes.
One simple way to engage with the Gregg Museum's collection is to utilize our online search tool. Visit gregg.arts.ncsu.edu and click on our Collections tab. Scroll down to find our link to search our online catalog. At the top of this page, click Search. This will take you to our advanced search tool. From here, you can search a general term, the name of a specific person, dates, places, object types, and more. I've been working on a research project for an upcoming video that focuses on the collection of Emma Hanford Smith, which consists of nearly 400 hand fans from around the world. Most objects in our collection have been photographed, and all have basic object details. At the bottom of these pages, you can see where your clicks take you through related records. In this instance, I can click on Decorative Arts, which includes the Mangelsdorf corn collection Jordan and I discussed. This is a great tool to browse our collection to get ideas, inspiration, or to use as a starting point for a research project.